Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Bluegrass Home and Garden TV. We are over at Springhouse with Richard Weber, Springhouse Gardens. Okay, we are beyond Derby Day.
Yay.
We are beyond Mother's Day.
Yay.
It is green light go.
It's time
for
to
our
plant.
green thumbs.
It's time to plant. And it's fun having a little patch of earth to garden in. So we're going to be trying to walk you through just some of the decisions that you make when you're starting maybe a new garden and you don't know where to begin. So one of the things is we're starting in the sun today. And these are some plants that I've been playing with for a number of years. But what you have to do is figure out how much sun do you have.
Okay.
And this is sunny afternoon sun. It's shady in the morning and then it gets a little shadier late in the day. So this is like hot from about 1 o'clock till about 5 o'clock. So that's basically full sun.
Yeah.
So you want plants that are going to be very happy in kind of a sunny situation. And then you have to know about your soil. Yeah. So the soil is really important. Now,
what do you do if you have a bunch of clover? We're going to see that that's an arch nemesis of mine later in the show.
Well, I've got my own version of clover, just weeds. You know, clover is good in a lawn if you don't necessarily have to have a perfect lawn. Right. Clover fixes its own nitrogen and does great.
There are some benefits to it.
Really, really good. But, you know, if you've got weeds, you need to clear the weeds out first. So we can talk about that later. But the soil is real important. And what I've got here is actually some pretty good soil, but it's very clay-based. There's a lot of clay in here. One of the things that you can do is dig a hole, and if you bunch it in your hand and it doesn't fall apart, that means that you've got quite a bit of clay. If it falls apart and it's crumbly, then it might be more sandy, which means it's well drained. This tends to stay a little damp. So you might need to do some soil amendments to loosen that soil up. You're gonna have to pick plants that will do well in this much sun with kind of a clay-based soil, and we can talk about that a little bit more later. But those are the first things. Know how much sun or shade you've got and what are your soils before you start picking out your perfect plant.
All right, stay tuned. We'll be back here in just a few.
Hey everyone, it's Brittany with Comfort Master Heating and Air, and I'm here today to show you some quick tips on how to get ready for summer. Number one of the most important things to do is change your filter. If you do not know where your filter is located, it is usually in a filter rack by your unit or behind a grill in your house somewhere. Now in this system, the filter rack is located right here. It's got a door that you open, pull the filter out, inspect the filter, see if it is dirty, if it's covered with hair. If you have animals, it usually is. And if you don't know your filter size, it's usually on the side of the filter. The most important part is it'll have an airflow arrow. You want it to go in the correct flow of the air. You shut the door. And that's how you change your filter. If you have any questions, give us a call. And it's not too late to get your spring tune-up. We can change your filters for you.
Well, we are back. Richard is walking us through the basics of our gardening this summer, especially for a nice, sunny, getting all my vitamin D in space.
Yeah, it's a perfect day to be out in the garden. So one of the things we were talking about was soil. And if you dig a hole and you have some soil and it breaks, you know, it kind of stays as a clod. One of the best things to do is get some soil amendment. This is pine bark soil conditioner. So what this is, it's really, really good, finely ground pine bark mulch and mini nugget, but much finer. So what I do, if I'm trying to break up the clay, I start by looking at what size hole I'm going to have to dig.
Yeah, so how do you know? Because sometimes I think people get them too deep or they don't get them deep enough.
One of the misconceptions is that you have to plant your plants really deep. And really, it's the other way around. You actually want the top of this plant to generally be just a little bit above where your soil line is. Okay. So I'm only going to really have to dig down about, 3.5, 4 inches. Okay. It's better for most plants, whether it's a tree, a shrub, or a perennial like this dianthus, to actually be above the ground area. But because we found out that our soil was a little clayey, that's why I had to go get some soil conditioner, because I've got to loosen this clay up Because one of the things I know about dianthus, and that's where it helps to do a little research, they like a more well-drained soil. So they need to have some looseness. They're not going to love being in clay.
They're not going to thrive.
They're not going to thrive. So I'm going to dig this hole maybe slightly deeper than the depth of the pot to allow me
To put more of that.
to put some more of this in, because I'm going to loosen it all up and I'm going to incorporate that. It's always better to go a little wider than deeper. So it's better to loosen it up around the plant.
I just totally thought of that song we learned in church, deep and wide.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a general rule is to go twice the width of your pot and no deeper. So that's a general rule for if you're digging a plant in a tree that comes in a root ball like this, or a containerized shrub or whatever. So I'm just going to continue on with this, and then I'll show you in the next segment, you know, exactly how you get this plant in this ground.
And to thrive. All right, we'll be back here in just a few. Well, Jimmy Nash is with us. We are over at 84 Lumber today in front of their massive Anderson windows display. And when I say massive, I really do mean massive. Look at this.
Yeah. 10 foot tall.
I love the fact that, you know, we've seen it where you can open up different ones and some will fold back into each other, but I don't think I've ever seen it this big, this tall, and this much to be able just to completely open up. I mean, talk about being able to take the outdoors and the indoors and kind of blending them.
Right. Well, that's, I mean, and that's the #1 reason why we use Anderson windows for our doors and windows, because they can make any height. They can make any window. They can make any color, grills, no grills, swinging in, sliding.
Yeah, and they're very energy efficient as well, obviously. So they're helping people in the long run in the ownership of their home.
Right. So they have a 20-year warranty, which probably will be the only window and door company in business 20 years from now. So.
Right. Golly, I mean, Jimmy, like, you know, when people see something like this, they're like, oh, well, is there potentials for leaks? You know, I mean, they always think when you go for something like this, there might be like a leak issue. That's probably not the case with Anderson.
No, not at all. Yeah, all their doors are like hurricane rated, so so our storms are little storms compared to that where they're at most of the time. But it all comes down to price. Yeah. So this may be a $20,000 door, but there's versions you can do that would be $5,000 or $6,000 less, still have the same look. They would just all slide against one panel. So we've done that, and up to 20 to 30 foot.
I mean, I just feel kind of like little standing next to this.
I know, it makes a normal door look small.
I know, I'm looking over here seeing a normal door and I'm like, it's like a little baby. Baby. This is what it wants to be when it grows up.
Right.
If it were a door or a window.
Put one of these in your house, Am.
Golly. Yeah, I mean, I could think about all the applications that you could utilize something like this, you know, just all that natural light. If you have a walkout basement, you could do something like this in the basement. Yeah,
and this color, it's a terry tone, but you know, black and bronze by far is the most popular color out there, so we're seeing a lot of that.
All right, so you obviously heard why he loves Anderson windows. Anything else why you just love them?
No, but because our designs are pushed to the, you know, the envelopes being pushed today, and they're able to accommodate whatever we throw at them.
I love it. All right. Well, in the meantime, if people have questions for you.
Yeah, JimmyNashHomes.com, or the cell number is 859-621-8880.
Sing along, deep and wide. No, deep and wide. The dianthus growing deep and wide.
Deep and wide?
Yeah, it's going to be in my head all day now.
Mine too. So we were talking about how deep you would plant something like this.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the depth, it's the width. And typically when you buy a perennial or anything in a container, you would want to use like a handy dandy weeding knife to just scratch the roots. And this one's just perfectly grown by one of our local growers.
Okay.
You just don't want those roots to wind around. It's called girdling. And this one, I'm just gonna rough it up just a little bit. You can take your fingernail or whatever, a kitchen knife. I like the weeding knife.
Now see, I always just grab the bottom and just kind of like.
And you can do that.
Okay. Make sure I wasn't doing it wrong.
What you're gonna wanna do is make sure that it's not too deep.
Okay.
So I'm gonna set that back in there. And because I know this plant doesn't like it too wet, I'm gonna actually pack this soil down a little bit. I don't want it to settle.
Okay.
So I've made it a little deeper, but I want it to be just a little bit above the surrounding grade.
Yeah, okay.
So we've talked about the importance of soil conditioning and getting the proper planting depth. The next thing I'm going to do If you've been watching the show for a while,
hey, I save them.
This is one of my favorite hacks. Instead of opening a more expensive bag of Biotone, which is a soil conditioner, a root stimulator, it smells terrible. Yeah. I'll buy a big bulk bag and then I'll use my coffee cans and put the Biotone in there. So I just put this out here so you know what you're looking for, but this is a root stimulator. We used to tell people not to add fertilizer when you planted, but this is actually helping the roots. So I'm just gonna sprinkle. If you're not very confident with it, you can actually follow the directions. Yeah, I just kind of pour some in there and put the lid back on and scratch it around. I'm wanting that to go where the roots are. And then I'm going to, actually, I've already mixed in some of the soil conditioner with the existing soil, and I am going to backfill that, making sure that I fill in all of the voids that are around the pot and making sure that it's not too shallow. I want it to be sitting up above the level of the soil a little bit. And just pushing it in with my hands. You don't have to, if I was doing a tree, I might stand up and push it down with my feet. But on something like this, these little guys are going to be perfectly happy, and you know that I've got some soil that tends to be on the heavy side. So I'm not really going to want to compact that anymore. So
you're going to go back in with just some of the pine straw mulch?
I'm going to come back in now that that's at the proper level, and I'm just going to spread the pine straw mulch. And this little dianthus is going to be really, really happy growing in here next to one that I planted last year.
Which is gorgeous.
So I'm kind of doing this as a little dianthus trial area because this one is happy and this one is happy. So hopefully this one will be happy too.
All right, so, well, stay tuned. We'll let you have a little bit more helpful tips here coming up your way.
Hey guys, I'm at my house this morning, this beautiful sunny morning. It's a little too bright, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I got my work clothes on. As Mom would say, I probably look like a vagrant, but I'm working, so I'm not worrying about it too much. So what I'm working on is on my back porch, and we're kind of working our way into Memorial Day and kind of celebrating all of what that encompasses. But my back porch has been sitting here kind of naked. We've got the furniture that always sits here, but what we're going to do is add detail to it and warmth to it with the idea that we're thinking of Memorial Day and the celebration of this beautiful country. So what I've done is I've got these great pillows that I've had made up that have my version of Americana on it, paisleys and window pane. So this is dressing up my chairs, and I got to see, I got a paisleys over here. Got my window pane there. One of the things that's a little bit unusual about what I do is I actually use a lot of things that you would imagine that go inside a house. And so I've used these garden stools, and really think about garden and stool. I love these. I actually leave these out all the time. I never even bring them in the winter, and I love the aesthetic of it. I went and drug out me some great Americana books, because if I'm going to sit out here, I'm going to read a good book. It's got a little cold. Got to have a throw, don't we? Right? If it gets a little nippy. This is a 21-year-old little handmade pillow my sweet mama made, and it's just precious to me. So I just bring it out for a couple weeks because I think it's fragile, but I love how crude it is and how simple it is. But that adds my little touch of Americana. Now, let's go over here, guys. And this is my moment. Look, you think you need to add touches of Americana. Well, nothing better than the American flag. And also, I don't want to work too hard. And so I brought all my beautiful collection of blue and white porcelain out, huge jars. It looks like you're in somebody's house, but it's my porch. And I added my little American flags. This was actually a gift, and it has the eagle on it. And a client, I was at somebody's house, and she said, "You want that now?" Well, sure. And so I usually have it in a shelf in the basement, but this time of year, 4th of July, I'll bring it out, and I think it adds a little touch. And again, this is adding Americana to your house, my version. This is something my sweet Ian made. It's faded and old, probably in kindergarten or 1st grade, but put a little frame around it. Again, it's not always out here, but for this time of the year, bring it out. Lantern, this is my version of Americana, and for a remembrance of Memorial Day. So just know, pillows, a little bit of American flags, you got it good. Thanks.
All right, more sun-loving plants from Richard Weber over at Springhouse Gardens. What are some of these other ones that seem to be doing really well?
Yeah, these are doing well because they're in perfectly drained situations with the rock wall. So we have a Kentucky native that a lot of people don't realize is native. It's a creeping phlox, or Phlox subulata. They're just now finishing bloom, but if you were here maybe 3 weeks ago, you'd see this moss of pink, purple, white, red. That's why some people call them moss pinks, even though they come in lavender, white, but they call them moss pinks, not to be confused with, these are cheddar pinks. I don't know why they call them cheddar pinks. They're not made out of cheddar cheese, but these are dianthus, which we've talked about, but these are called pinks. They're actually in the carnation family, so I don't know if you can smell that sweet smell that we're by, but dianthus and phlox grow very well in well-drained, full sun situations. So part of the reason I haven't had as much luck with the phlox up in here is because it's very heavy clay. It doesn't drain as much. As soon as these plants find their roots in the rocks, they're going to be very, very happy. And look at what the dianthus is doing here. I planted it back here like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's grown out into the rocks.
It's kind of just going where it wants.
It's going like, where it wants.
I like it over there just a little bit. But so, now over there,
right here,
succulents. Now we know from past episodes that those love the heat of the summer.
They love the heat of the summer.
Yeah. Why do you have it in the?
Well, because I had it in another part of the garden and it was too shady, and I didn't really have time to dig it out of the pot. And I just thought, oh, that looks kind of cool. And I stuck the pot up here behind the rocks. And this thing is just, I mean, look how pretty that is.
It's so cute.
And I actually like how it nestles in there with the rocks. Now, I've been trying for 20 years planting these succulents and things along here, and only a few of them have survived, even once they get into the rocks. So I just thought this might be a good way to get the succulents where they should be happy, but when they're down in the ground, they rot.
They don't like the clay.
But look how happy that is. And they're okay sitting in a pot year-round.
And that's just a happy little pot anyway, that just wherever you put it.
I think I need to do some more of those.
Yeah, I think that's adorable.
And maybe I'll add a few more to the pinks and to those moss pinks or dianthus and creeping phlox, and we'll have a beautiful year-round combination here along with our dwarf conifers. And we could do a whole show on dwarf conifers, but these are, again, trying to pick plants that love the sun and then accent with things that are going to give you color in March, in April and May, and then in June, July, and August.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this when we come back.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this one. Stay tuned.
Hello, this is Art Hubbard, Hubbard Mechanical. Normally you don't see me in this aspect of it, but we've been doing some cooking here lately, and so I brought my wife, Stephanie Hubbard, Hubbard Mechanical. So this is not really a cooking thing that we're doing, but it's just something fun you can do at the barbecues. You know, we're all going to want to be outside celebrating, having a good time, and what better way to do it than to show love for our country.
That's right.
So I'll let kind of Stephanie.
Super fun. It's fun. You could do skewers like this in any way. And with kids, I know we're all getting together again and having fun. This is a great idea for kids. Get kids involved in the kitchen. That's super fun.
Yeah, and it just brings us all close together, and we can all have a good time.
So for this one, we just have these skewers. They're really fun. And we're just gonna start throwing on berries and marshmallows.
Yep.
Yep. So you start off with the raspberries, and then I've got some marshmallows, and then we'll put some more raspberries on, and just kind of keep working it. Now I know we're using, raspberries and blueberries and marshmallows this time, but you can also do watermelon, cut it up in stars and put it on top.
Strawberries are good.
Strawberries are great. Everybody loves strawberries.
Yeah, we've seen some of them that aren't necessarily with the fruit, but it's just like pieces of meat, and the meat would be where the blueberries would be, and then you have onions for the marshmallows, and you'd have tomatoes to where the raspberries are, so you can kind of put the whole meat eater aspect to it.
And if you get, really big marshmallows, you can get really big, huge chunks of watermelon. I know everybody loves watermelon this time of year, so yeah.
Yep.
Super fun.
Yeah.
I know our girls like doing it.
Yeah.
The nieces do, so.
Yeah, we all get together and just kind of go and just usually put them in there. The biggest thing is just when we're out and having a good time in the kitchen, just, spending time with family, friends, don't lose count of how many you got to do for either one, because there's a lot of times, especially if you lose count, the third or fourth one, you start putting the blueberries on there. Now you got to start taking it off. But life happens.
Now, I know we're doing this in the kitchen today. If I have leftovers or something falls on the floor, I can put that in the garbage disposal, right?
No marshmallows.
No marshmallows.
No marshmallows.
You don't want to call us for that stuck in the garbage disposal. Would not be fun.
Nope. All right. Well, hope you enjoy and go out and celebrate this great country.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about coral bells. I see that you have got some that look like they've been here for a while.
Those have been there a good long while.
They look pretty happy.
They are very happy, and I wasn't sure that this might be a little bit too much sun for them. So it's always a good idea, if you're not really sure, to maybe try a few, one or two, and see how if they're happy in your area or not. I planted those maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
If they're happy and they know it.
They'll clap their hands. So this one is one called Cassandra, and she's done very, very well. Now I tried some other ones in here with Cassandra, and they're long gone. They didn't make it. So when these came in this spring, this is one called Rio de Janeiro. No, it's just called Rio, Mio Mio. That one I couldn't resist it, and I thought, gosh, that color blends really nice with the Cassandra, and I'm hoping that she's going to take this much sun. So I'm just going to plant one and see how it does, and just, you know, the nice thing about coral bells, they're based on a native Kentucky plant, and you've found them
numerous times on some hikes.
Yeah, they're not usually this colorful, but their heritage comes from a Kentucky native plant, which is awesome.
That's what
so they are adapted, but again, they're a plant that likes it more well drained. When you see them growing in the wild, they're growing in the rocks, on the cliff faces. So these probably could stand to be a little closer to my rocks, but as long as you plant them high, add some of the soil conditioner, and don't overwater, they should do fine.
Now, real quick question, Lenten roses.
Yeah, I'm pushing the envelope a little bit. I usually suggest Lenten roses in the shade.
That's why I didn't bring it up.
I'm just seeing how they do, so that when people ask me, hey, will they take the sun? I'll say, well, these have done well, or I'll say, no, I tried them in the sun last year and they just didn't like it. This is a different variety that I'm going to be trying in the sun. And I didn't want it mixing with all the other ones that are a different variety. So I wanted to keep them separate from my thousands of other ones. And it's kind of a test garden, just to see how they do.
I looked back and I saw that. I was like, wait a minute.
You got a keen eye. They're not really probably supposed to be there, but
like,
they were in my window boxes for the past 3 months, and I didn't want to take them back to the garden center. I had them on the cart, was getting ready to take them. I'm like, no, I think I'll try them over here. So I'd like to try plants in places that maybe they shouldn't go.
Stretch their limits just a little bit.
And we'll see how they do.
All right, well, stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Well, we are on site with Travis with Urban Agscapes. Okay, Travis, this is not my house. This is not your house. Correct. We are doing a good deed here, right? Like, yes, and I have before pictures of what this backyard looked like. There was no evergreen, so we pulled out a bunch of stuff. Clover was just all over the place. So I contacted Travis. I was like, hey, Travis, I said, like, this is a perfect application of like what we should do in this application. Because they had the pebble, and it just wasn't really jiving with them. Yeah, so I helped them, remove as much of the weeds as I could. We went over to Springhouse Gardens, got some evergreens to plant, some arborvitaes and stuff that hopefully in the winter months, they've got these beautiful hostas, but those aren't going to be there in the middle of winter.
Right.
So. But hopefully just making this backyard pop a little bit better. And you chose and recommended what?
Pine vines. I like the natural, neutral earth tone to go with the green.
Smells fantastic.
Yeah. Nice material.
Yeah, and it won't break down quite as fast.
Correct.
Okay, so that was a big kicker here.
That's a biggie.
Yeah, because there was so many weeds. I mean, I did as good as I could.
Yeah. Quick.
We wanted to kind of stay at bay. All right, so it's just us. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Get busy.
Okay. I am not a professional landscaper, but I play well on television. I just kidding. You know what? Honestly, it looks 100 times better.
It does, real quick.
And we were talking that probably should actually go in with some of that small, like pea gravel in between.
Put it in between the block, kind of break it up a little bit. It'll look really nice, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, but smells fantastic. Looks so much better.
Yeah.
The before pictures say all I need to say. All right, so if people are like, yeah, that didn't look too hard, I could do that. I need to come get some. How can I get a hold of you?
Just give us a call. We'll set up a delivery, or you can come pick it up, and it's at 859-241-5050.
Hey Kentucky, it's time to wake up.
Because what's going on here at home matters.
The news where you live.
Reporting live in Lexington, the weather in your neighborhood.
The traffic where you're headed.
And that's why WKYT this morning is focused on covering what matters most here in Kentucky, which is Kentucky.
We focus less on national and more on standing for you. So when you're ready to wake up, watch WKYT this morning.
First Alert Weather Days. Your first alert to when weather needs to be on your mind first. On air, online, on your phone. So you always know first.
Well, we are almost out of time over at Springhouse Gardens, but we have to acknowledge this cute little thing here.
This is a dwarf variety of a Norway spruce.
Oh, okay.
And Norway spruce will grow in the full shade or the full sun. And a regular Norway spruce will get 100 feet tall. Yeah. So anything under 100 feet is considered a dwarf, but these are really, really dwarf. This is a variety called Tampa. It's kind of a cute little gumdrop shape. But in this little garden by the cottage, I've wanted to highlight some of these different evergreens and then use these really pretty perennials and things that kind of give you some color. Even though these are here year round, some seasonal color is kind of nice. So it's nice to have, you know, a backbone of green or gold or you know, burgundy for some of these plants to have that comes back every year, and then have some additional perennial color as well. We've refrained from putting any annuals in here just because we have annuals in other areas. So this is kind of a year-round. I call this sometimes the dwarf conifer tapestry garden because there's always something changing on the ground. So
well, I love it, and it's a great time to visit Springhouse Gardens because, like I said, it is go green light for all things planting,
including tomatoes and peppers and everything else.
All right, springhousegardens.com.
SpringhouseGardens.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and come out here at 185 West Catnip Hill Road.
And we'll see you next time.